joining me to discuss, what CRS has been all about in this country, I have in the studio Dr. Amulai Toure, who is the CRS country manager. Dr. Toure, good to have you in the program.
Thank you, Aliu. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, greetings to all the viewers. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you very much. And also in the studio, I have Mr. Keba Seka, who is the chair of the organizing committee. Keba, good to have you in the program.
Thank you, Aliu, for having me. Good evening to our viewers, wherever they're connecting from. We are here for a very good conversation. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Let me now start with Doctor. Like I said, 6 decades of CRS in the country. What will you look at as the most significant achievements of CRS in the Gambia over the past 6 decades?
Yeah, thank you once again. I think before I start, I just want to register my profound gratitude to the government of the Gambia, who has allowed us and journeyed with us for the last 60 years and have created a conducive environment for us to support the development needs of the country. I also want to thank our donors and partners, including present and past, and of course the staff. I think in the Gambia, CRS has touched many angles in the areas of agriculture, in the areas of health, education, and emergency response. I think our successes can be grouped into different thematic areas, but I think one of the main achievements of CRS is its resilience, its journey to be able to be present for 60 years supporting communities, working closely with the government and partners to address present needs of the country. A typical example is the Sesame project that was implemented in the Gambia some years back. Of course, one of the key advocates of that project was the late President, Sir Dawda Jawara. Okay. And this was where 2 NGOs were created from. One of them was National Women Farmers Association, which had brought together over 40,000 women farmers. And they were cultivating sesame seeds, and Gambia at that time was oil self-sufficient. The sesame production was so good that the oil generated from that was there. And then one of the key also achievement was the Gambia Nutrition Agency, GAFNA, was created by CRS to support and take those projects along, because we believe in sustainability. And it was crucial also to do that in order to promote local-led development, where the local NGOs take the lead, and because they are closer to the community. Thank you.
Like you said, just before I bring in Keba here, how has CRS evolved in its mission and approach since 1964?
Yes, so CRS started globally we started in 1943. Okay. Actually, CRS started before the UN was founded. At that time, there were so many victims of the World War, and the Bishops of Conference in the United States felt the need to support all individual vulnerable people that were affected by the war. And in that process, the mission was to serve everyone, irrespective of their religion, identity, or race, and then expanded their operations until it reached our source. In 1960, CRS was invited in the Gambia by the Bishop of Banjul and the government of the day at that time. And then we started by providing emergency response to the needed families and care for people that were living with TB, HIV, AIDS, and other diseases. And these people were technically neglected during those days in the 60s before independence. And CRS took the leadership to support them and restore their dignity. Okay. And over the years, we have then got into agriculture, doing rice value chain, seed multiplication, and then, of course, continue the emergency response. Then we got into education. We have health programs that build maternal centers. Over 116 maternal centers were constructed. Until date, some of those centers are still being used by women and so forth.
Quite interesting. Let me now bring in Keba here, who is the chair of the organizing committee. Last week, you organized a partner award, I mean, which was well attended, very well organized. I mean, and I understand you're also planning another bigger celebration on the 17th of this month. Could you share with us, I mean, the reason for organizing that partner award, and regarding the 17th event, how is the preparation going?
Thank you very much, Aliu. And I think I will just connect from where Doc stopped. That CRS's journey in the Gambia has really evolved over time. From emergency response, from a small office in Banjul, we have grown in size both in terms of programs, but also the number of staffs and the number of partners we work with. And maybe a brief background, CRS in the Gambia, you know, the model has changed over time, CRS globally, in fact. And then first we were working with our implementing partners. And later we evolved to working through our implementing partners. And now we're even thinking of working for the implementing partners. That is why last week, as part of the 60th anniversary, which you have already talked about, the team, we decided to come together as an office, because celebration goes beyond merrymaking, but we have to recognize our primary stakeholders in the work that we have done. And that's why last week, Friday, we come together as staff of CRS to recognize our implementing partners, but also we seize the opportunity to recognize outstanding staff of CRS, because these are our primary stakeholders. It is the staff that is driving all this impact that we see over the years, and we are doing this through 6 major implementing partners in the country. And some of these implementing partners, Doc has already said it, you know, they were established by CRS, and they've gone to a point where they're able to drive big programs in the country. So we just thought, as part of the celebration, it is important that we recognize the partners. But in addition to the award ceremony, where our partners and staff were awarded, on the 17th, we're also going to do an official celebration at the Sadauda Keraba Conference Center, where we're expecting the highest possible representation from the executive. And we are also expecting all our staff, our beneficiaries.
We're expecting the president, by the way.
Absolutely. We are expecting, that's why I was saying from the highest possible, you know, in the country at the time. We are expecting His Excellency to be there with us, because the work we are doing in CRS is primarily supporting the development of the recovery-focused national development plan. All our work, from education, which is a priority for the country, to youth empowerment, to health, these are all key priorities that aligns very well with the National Development Plan. And that is how CRS does its program. So that program would start in the morning, and then we are also expecting donors, and whether they're UN agencies, embassies, diplomatic missions, you know, the radios and TV, the media, you know, we're expecting everyone to come there, because it would be an opportunity for us to show the work that CRS has been doing over the years, but also to show the focus and the capacity we have in country. Because CRS, as Doc said, is one of the agencies in the country that is, you know, always in the far and hard to reach areas in this country. From Banjul to Koina, wherever you want to support vulnerable communities who are in need, CRS has the capacity to get there. So we really think it's an opportunity that we come out to the public and just talk about what we've achieved over time, with humility, of course, but just to say that, you know, we are here to support vulnerable communities and individuals across the country. So that is the purpose why.
Like you said, I mean, you are not doing everything in isolation. You're working with partners. Doc, could you just share with us, how do you collaborate with these partners and communities to achieve your goals?
So yes, so CRS approach is an integrated human development approach, leaving no one behind. And we have a vision 2030 called In Their Own Hands.
Okay.
The goal is local leadership, and local leadership is where we put local organizations in the forefront of the development aspiration of the country, supporting governments to implement their own programs, not to develop in isolation, but we are into more of co-creation. And our approach is community-led. The need has to be identified by the community and aligned with the national development plan, in this case, the Green Recovery Focus NDP plan. And our relationship with the partners is knowledge sharing and capacity strengthening. we do what we call a system approach. So we believe that in order to address the core problems, it's not like doing cosmetic work. We need to be serious with the work we do. It is stated that it takes a whole village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And that means CRS believe that alone we cannot do it. And we need partners, we need government, we need the international community. Of course, we need the people who we are accountable to. And on top of that, we have what we call a feedback and complaint response mechanism, which is a free number that is given to the public. And in that case, they are given the opportunity to even lodge complaints of our interventions if they are not happy of what we do, or if they have suggestions or recommendations. Or
what is this number?
Do
you have the number, Kiva?
1020.
1020. Okay, 1020.
Yes, so, but it's displayed in all our project sites.
Exactly, yeah.
The meal team.
But maybe for someone watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, and that is important because we believe in accountability. We don't want to just carry our bags and go and decide projects for people. It has to be, dictated by the needs and aspiration of the country and, of course, the community at large.
Okay. Let me now bring in Keba here because, like you said, I mean, you've come a long way. 60 years, I can tell you, CRS is older than maybe 80% of our population today.
Absolutely.
But when you look at CRS today, I mean, what are your key main focus areas as of today?
Thank you. CRS's work in the Gambia, as I said previously, is aligned with what government wants, but it aligns with the needs of the communities. So our work really evolves over time. In terms of our primary focus has really been in health, where we have interventions around malaria that are funded by the Global Fund, majority of them. But also we have interventions around education, which is one of our flagship projects at the moment, which is, I always like to quote it in Dallas, is a 2 billion Gambian Dallas project that aims to support school feeding and also increase retention and enrollment of children. And this project, the logic of this project is that, there are a lot of kids that are going to school hungry, and therefore, the chances that they are withdrawn from school to go to the farms or to go and sell to make ends meet, it's very high. So it's giving daily meals to children in the schools. But also our work goes to emergency response. And I think this year, through our partnership with the National Disaster Management Agency, NDMA, we have got funding from ECOWAS, through our partnership with government again. And through that project, we have distributed over 27 million Gambian dollars to, flood victims, those who were affected by the 2022 flood that we all know. So our interventions really, as Doc says, evolves from the community. So whatever opportunity we see, we go back to the communities and then we ask them, what are the needs? This is a funding. And in addition to what the communities tell us, because sometimes communities have a need that they don't know, we also do a need assessment in the communities where we intervene to identify the issues, and then we bring back the communities again for them to validate that. From there, we now design our programs.
So it's not like that top-bottom approach, it's more like bottom-top approach.
Yes, and in project management, we call it helicopter development. Okay. You sit at a distance and then you design things and you throw it at people. That's why you have a lot of sustainability issues. So. But different, for CRS, they go to the communities, know their needs, have their inputs, you identify the implementing partners who can help, and then we do the application with the implementing partners. And this method have really yielded a lot of dividends for CRS and a lot of confidence from our partners, because they are part of the design process and then we implement together. So the understanding starts at the beginning. And as a result of that, we're able to make all this impact that we're already talking about.
And still talking about, the sustainability aspect of it. We are in a country where we bring in projects, but sustainability, having that lasting impact, has always been a problem. What is the secret for CRS that your projects, you're still feeling the impact 60 years down the line?
In pure development terms, I will call it indigenous development, indigenous knowledge. and it starts from the development of the proposal. We should not forget that wherever you are going to intervene, those people are not just laymen. They might not be able to read and write, but they know they've been surviving before you are there. So we build the sustainability plan as we go. And for example, our USDA, United States Department of Agriculture project that is being implemented for the school feeding, we have already had a sustainability plan in the second year. And this was developed in consultation with all the stakeholders. We've invited all the relevant ministries and of course the participants themselves. These are the beneficiaries to come up with the plan. But the plan looks at the local resource mobilization strategy, the local knowledge, the local capacity to take it forward, even when the project phases out. Because like I was saying, it's more of a system approach. If you build the systems and they are functioning, then continuity is there. But if you just cosmetically address the surface of the problem without going to the root cause, doing the problem analysis, it's always difficult to sustain. And that's our strength. Our strength is we think of sustainability even before getting in.
And Kira, what were some of the biggest challenges you have faced? I mean, in as much as we appreciate the achievements, I mean, that CRS has registered over the past 6 decades, challenges along the journey. And how were you able to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in development there is always this general challenge of, donor fatigue that we are all aware of. And, sometimes political situation in a country also affects development work because we're getting most of the funding from institutions, organizations that base their funding on a lot of other things that are beyond CRS. For instance, within these 60 years, we have seen, different transitions, change of government in different formats that may not be aligned with, international best practices. So within this history, records have it that there was a time when we have some funding challenges and, because most of our funding was coming from the United States government. And as a result of the military takeover, that really affected our funding basket. However, we have to diversify. And as Amulai already started talking about, using local resource mobilization is important. But also among the challenges sometimes is the partners that we work with. The partners are very critical, but we are not working with partners that are already very established and they are very strong. We establish implementing partners, we support them, starting gradually transferring small amount of money, helping them with their operations as part of our sustainability drive. But sometimes with these partners, you have a lot of challenge with capacity. You have to accompany them with a lot of things. This is donor funding. Every dollar, every butud you spend,
trust.
You have to be accountable for it.
Trust.
And sometimes for them, it's, we have those type of challenges. So what we are doing in those instances is that we are accompanying our partners. We are not just giving them funds and we fold our hands. We are going there to their offices. We help them set up, we help them operationalize, but also we transfer knowledge and capacity we have. So we accompany them through trainings, but also we don't implement like CRS and the partner. We are all implementing one project with one objective, and that helps us to exchange knowledge. There are areas that the partners know because they're the ones in the communities, then we learn from it. So I think these are some of the 2 major challenges that, comes with development, but it's because of the model, the local leadership model that we decide to adopt. Of course, there's a lot of merit in it, but it comes with challenges, which means that we have to really...
Doc, certainly we know CRS is not only operating in the Gambia. I mean, when you look at the Gambia's case, what lessons have we learned in the country, in your operation in the Gambia, that you think perhaps this can be applied in CRS globally?
I think one of the key lessons is that we can apply globally is the relationship we have with the government.
Okay.
And I think it's important because if you operate in a country, you don't operate in silos. So you operate within a framework and within an organized, for example, development strategy, and the government has that plan. And are also open to collaboration. So, and that collaboration and joint work, joint implementation, for example, MOPSI, we go to the field with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education together. We look at things together. And these are also lessons that can be carried to other places. But also resilience. You have ups and downs. And Gambia was able to weather that. And I think that's a major achievement to be in operation for 60 years. And these are all viable and tangible results. But let me also add that in the Gambia, the first country in West Africa, I can say the whole world, to digitize malaria bed net distribution was the Gambia. It was done here in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, and all the other countries within the region have opted for that model to digitize nets campaign and distribution. We also have the synchronized mass campaign with Senegal, and this also has been adopted by other neighboring countries like Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and so forth. So I think Gambia is on a pathway to be a leader, a thought leader in terms of how projects are designed and implemented, and of course monitored.
And Keva, how do you plan to further deepen your impact, but also to expand your reach to the underserved communities?
So this year, as part of the 60th anniversary, one of the outcomes we're expecting is that our strategic plan would be revised, because we live in a world that is dynamic, that is changing over time. Okay. The donor landscape is changing. Needs of society is changing. Yeah. What we were doing in 1964, if we want to continue to replicate the same thing, it will not work. So we are really looking at our strategic plan to refocus again. So the celebration is also an opportunity for us to just step back, do a very thorough analysis of what happened in the past, what is happening currently, and what we want to do in the future. And in terms of where we want to refocus to, now we're looking at the country. And one of the major issues we are having, in addition to education, health, where we are already very strong in, youth empowerment, youth programming is one of the areas that CRS has a lot of competency globally. But in the Gambia, we have not done a lot of work in this area. And we can see that our young people, they form more than 50% of the population, but they all, majority of us want to leave this country. Yeah. And a good number of us are perishing, you know. So how can CRS support the government in youth empowerment? And this is a focus area that I'm very much aware that, you know, the executive, the presidency is very much interested. So we will really get into that.
And even rural urban migration. So many young people are now living in rural areas to complete urban centers. So
absolutely. Migration in general, it's because of people are migrating for greener pastures. If they have the greener pastures where they are, they would definitely, you know, be there. So that's why also our focus area moving forward include identifying more local partners. At the moment, we are just working with 6 active partners. Of course, we have a host of them, but we want to go down the ground and look at those indigenous, you know, NGOs that are just coming up, so that we can support them, so that they can continue to serve their communities. So really, we're refocusing, and then, you know, we would come up with a strategic plan that is relevant, but that is always aligned with the needs of a government, and then meeting the needs of our donors as well.
Doc, so how do you identify which community deserves your interventions?
A good question. So it depends on the. So there are a lot of factors to look into. One, you look into the reports of the country, like where are the pressing needs. For example, if you look at poverty, our agricultural component is mainly focused in CRR North, because we see that's where poverty has hit the country really hard. If you look at our programs, we do a broad spectrum. So we reach out to the entire country, but it's all dependent on the area of intervention and how stretched we are and how capable our local partners are. And of course, where the government needs it most. For example, in terms of education, our focus was in 4 regions, but the ministry shifted the priority and wants it across the country. So we have to also be doing what we call adaptive strategic management, and be able to adjust quickly to meet the demands of the people we serve. Because like Keva was saying, we live in a very dynamic and very fluid world, including at the community level. Vulnerabilities and shocks can hit at any moment, at any point. Yeah. And these are the deciding factors of where we intervene technically.
And Keba, talking about the issue of sustainability, I mean, you perhaps depend mostly on donor funding. I mean, we know like you said, the priorities are changing. I mean, what happened in the event that most of the donors pulled back and said, you know, we want to divert our attention to something else different? Where will this leave CRS?
I think CRS is one, donors may step back, but donors, they award grants based on trust. Yes. And CRS is
years.
One.
60 years in the Gambia.
Yes. And CRS is one agency that we are not expecting. Of course, every project we implement, as Doctor said, we are going to hand over to a minister. That's why we're working. We are not working with private sector, but we are working with government. And we are supporting that particular institution, whether it is MOPSI, Ministry of Agriculture, to implement what is already their role. So even if the donors withdraw, we don't hope to, because of the general constraint we have in the economy, in terms of resources as a country. But if you continue with the good governance that we're doing in the country, we hope that the donors would continue to come to support the Gambia, because that's also their mandate. That is their interest. The donors, they want to help countries so that they can grow over time. So even if the donors withdraw, we're hoping that the government would have the capacity to take over most of the things. For instance, the Food for Education program, we are taking along the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. Yeah. And as we go, we're already discussing how are we going to hand over this program so that the government would start to, you know, to fund those programs. But in agriculture as well, we are doing this with the Ministry of Agriculture. In health, we are implementing through the ministry. So we are transferring the resources to them. So what we should pray for is that the government has enough resources to be able to pick up these activities, because we are not going to continue implementing the same thing. So how I see NGOs like CRS is that we pilot ideas, we test them, it works, we hand them over to government for them to take it on.
Thank you so much. That's Keba Seka, who is the chairman of the organizing committee of CRS at 60, and he was in the studio with Dr. Amulai Toure, who's CRS's country manager.